Yo, what is up everyone? This is OJ over here from PlayerEssence and welcome to another Nintendo NX discussion. And this time we're going to be talking about the battle that's going on, the battle of the insiders. You got my waifu, Emily Rogers, versus SuperMetaldave, my boy. So basically there's been some respectful back and forth, very good discussion talking about the Nintendo NX leaked specs or rumors based on the specs. And what I love about discussion like this, it gets us talking about gaming, it gets us talking about the potentials, it gets us talking about the possibilities, because there really isn't much for Nintendo fans to talk about at this point. Got a little bit of Nintendo 3DS news, the Wii U's pretty much dead at this point, so there really isn't much to talk about Wii U side of things. And when you do talk about it, it's like stupid censorship stuff with Tokyo Mirage Sessions or the lack of games that are coming out for the Nintendo Wii U. So it's good to kind of shift gears a little bit and just talk about what Nintendo's doing next. And I did want to talk about what these two people are talking about when it comes to the Nintendo NX rumors as far as leak specs. So you have Emily Rogers, for those who don't know, who has said that the Nintendo NX is not going to be some type of powerhouse system, that it's not going to be using x86 architecture, that it's going to be, as far as raw specs go, it's going to be closer to Xbox One than PS4. And then she also said that it's going to be using industry-leading chips, modern architecture, very new, but somehow, like I said, raw specs Xbox One more so than PS4. So right off the bat, just giving my opinion just on that, which I've talked about a little bit, but I'll refresh for those who didn't watch that last video. It seems really funny that Nintendo would make a state-of-the-art Xbox One. I mean, we're talking like a 2016, 2017 Xbox One. I mean, which could technically be feasible. The Xbox One is a good, strong console. There's nothing necessarily wrong with the Xbox One, and if Nintendo made a more powerful, more efficient, better running Xbox One that doesn't have those super long install load times and all that, and was just better, that'd be cool, I guess. But that's not necessarily something that I would see happening with Nintendo using industry-leading chips, modern architecture. It doesn't really put two and two together. If Nintendo's using AMD's newer tech, I don't see how Nintendo can be using newer tech and somehow make the system weaker, because we all know for the most part this is going to be newer tech with AMD. Now, moving over to what SuperMetaldave said. SuperMetaldave said that, hey, wait a minute here. let's hold up here, hold up. He talked about how Emily Rogers has been saying anybody who says Polaris or Polaris-like features is just kind of wacky. That's not happening. And SuperMetaldave definitely disagreed with that. So some of the stuff that he brought up was that he did say, yes, it is going to have modern architecture as far as the Nintendo NX. It is going to have a newer GPU, newer CPU, and the industry-leading chips and all that stuff that she kind of said as well. But he said that it can't be compared to older consoles, which Emily also said, saying that you can't compare apples to oranges. It's hard to do that. He said the same thing. You can't really be comparing the newer generations to the older ones, since AMD is doing the console GPU. And he also kind of said some other things, talking about how that there's absolutely nothing else that's modern or industry leading as far as the GPU goes that can be used other than Polaris. He talked about that on his video. And he said that it is a custom made, which Emily also echoed. This is a custom made, very different type of chips that they're using and what they're doing for the GPU. But he basically just kind of rounded things out by saying this is AMD's more newer technology, which would have to put it above the power of a PS4 or near that power of a PS4. So it's one of those things we're gonna have to wait and see from some NDA from a third-party developer being ran up, or to where Nintendo actually talks about the system themselves. But going back and forth between these two, because I have a lot of respect for my waifu and I have a lot of respect for SuperMetaldave, my boy, and I think that both of them could be right and wrong. That's the funny thing, they can both be right and wrong in certain instances. And that's the thing when you're talking about rumors and leaks and secondhand information that becomes third-hand information. You can't really know anything until you actually have the final product in your hands. And when you're getting these potentially variable stats, that's where some of these misconceptions and some of these misreporting can happen. It's not because these people want to misreport or they're not getting information that wasn't told to them, but it's just because this stuff hasn't been tested as far as the GPU. This is something new. This is something that we can't necessarily say, okay, well, here's the performance level, here are the games, we can compare that to whatever's already out on the market. And I think that's where you're getting some of this back and forth. Just my own opinion, it'd be very hard for me to believe that Nintendo seriously made a state-of-the-art Xbox One. Like, that would be very hard for me to believe that Nintendo would do something like that, unless they were going a super cheap route. So Nintendo looked at what the newest technology is, the modern technology, custom made it to scale it back somehow, because if they're using modern industry-leading chips, it would have to somehow be scaled back. I don't know how they can even do this, because I'm not a techie person, but pretty much everyone agrees, for all the most part, as far as rumors go, that Nintendo's using very modern, very new, state-of-the-art chips, architecture, stuff is new, but somehow on par or just right around the same as stuff that's years old, which is very, I don't know how Nintendo could do that, but let's just say that they did do that. If Nintendo did and it was around Xbox One power level, I would expect the system to be insanely cheap. As in we're talking like $199 type deal, and just try to say, hey, we've got a system that's $199, way quicker, newer, can produce the same amount of graphics as PS4 and Xbox One. It's $199 and you can buy this for your family. We're going to have a bunch of great Nintendo games. We're going to have some third-party support, but maybe not everything, and yo, buy our system. Like, this is something that you're going to want. No long install times. We're going to have potentially games that you can bring over once the handheld portion is complete. That's the only way that I could think Nintendo would do something like that. Otherwise, if you don't, a year or two down the road, or 3 years, or whenever the next systems come out from Microsoft and Sony, you might have some issues there with power. Now, once again, this can come into play as far as the supplemental computing device with the Nintendo NX handheld and boosting the power of the console. And that's the one kicker from all this. And that's the one thing that I've been trying to stress to some people. That's the one kicker that we don't know about. Nintendo did clear a patent for that. The supplemental computing device can and potentially will be used for upcoming devices for Nintendo. That is a very big possibility. So I think that's the one thing that we all have to think about or keep into play when we discuss the power of the Nintendo NX when it's revealed and when we find out what it actually does. We just need to keep that into play, because that could play a big part into this whole thing. Nintendo knows that they're at a disadvantage. They're at a big disadvantage at this point with the Nintendo NX. You have millions upon millions of people who already identify with Microsoft, identify with Sony, have bought their systems, and are going to go with them because they have all the third-party support, they have exclusive DLCs, they have their own first-party games that people like Bloodborne and Ratchet and Clank, Quantum Break, Halo 5, Gears of War 4, and all sorts of games that they can pick up as well. Nintendo knows that they have to come in with a competitive console, because you can sit here and say that, oh, they're not competing against Microsoft and Sony. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And that's the reason why nobody bought a Wii U, because they all bought Microsoft and Sony systems. So that's the one thing. It's video games, and Nintendo is in the video game industry. So yes, they are a competitor. So Nintendo knows that they have to come to the market strong with something. It has to be a nice price. It has to be decently powered. It has to have some third-party support. It has to have better games. Plain and simple, than the Wii U. It has to have better games, especially launch games. Can't be launching with mini game collections and platformers, Nintendo. You just can't be launching with all that and then just saying, hey, well, here's our system, buy it. Like, just because we're Nintendo, doesn't work like that anymore. So I think Nintendo knows that they have to do something here. We're going to have to wait and see. I love discussing, talking about games and what Nintendo's going to do. I think it's all fun. It's really fun stuff. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I'm not asking you to pick sides. I think both of these people have some information correct and some of it could be wrong. We've seen before. Like I said, things change. Sometimes you get information and then things change for the company. Then that information was right and then it becomes wrong because things have changed for that company. Changes happen all the time. Ask Sony before E3 2013, because I'll tell you something right now. If it wasn't for Microsoft messing up epically, that conference would have been a lot different, and the PS4 would have been a lot different as far as prices, bundles, and things available. So that's my take on the whole matter. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Let me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And also subscribe to PlayerEssence for more news, reviews, trailers, tips, and tricks, and everything on the Nintendo NX. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.